So the first, I just wanted to, these are more like statement things that you react to. So one is that it's critical, actually your insight into that shame, that they're actually embedding shame into their society now as opposed to honor, because, which actually is a significant issue for them, because long term that will destroy their culture, that will destroy their own culture. But first I just want to mention is that for them, occupancy is actually the way they explain it adds to the humiliation, shame, and also doesn't give them any agency. If they're occupied, then they don't have any. You just heard us talk about it now when he got very upset at the report coming out from the EU, who said, how can we have any responsibility because we're an occupied people?
From the quartet, yes.
Yeah, so that was the first thing. The second thing is and I don't know if you want a reaction on that. Sure. Okay.
No, I'm saying, no, it's 100% true. But it's an excuse.
Yeah,
and anybody can show them it's an excuse. You can say, hey, how come you acted this way before 1967? Hey, what does a 13-year-old girl have to do with occupation when you're studying? Whatever. There's a lot of answers you have for that. Yeah.
And the other piece I just want to mention on the NGOs. Look, let's be honest. NGO is an industry, and as an industry, it's built on access. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's take Human Rights Watch. When their own founder comes out and says it's the most corrupt, destructive, lying organization about the Middle East, Bernstein, right?
Yes.
And nothing happens in the end. No change in governance, because if they change their left bona fides, they'll lose access to what they love, which is all the access to the left, which is really what gives them their strength and power. So I'm just wondering if you want to react to that.
No, that's certainly true, and obviously there's going to be a lot of pushback for that. But, like for example, NGO Monitor, obviously, are the people that spend more time on this than anybody else. One of the things they mentioned is that, okay, fine, you can be an NGO, you can do this. There happen to be standards on fact-finding missions. People have written standards. When you're doing a fact-finding mission, here's what you do in order to make sure that it is completely unbiased. So, hey, do this, we'll be happy. Make sure you do it in such a way, because right now bias is built in to your investigations. So if you want to be immune from criticism, otherwise you're just making things up. You can just do whatever you want. You can make up your own methodology. If you really care, let's give yourself a methodology, let's stick to it, and something that can be audited, and something we can check you on, and that's it. So by them not answering that, it makes them look bad. So at least bring up the issue. That's my opinion. Yes?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just got a very short question. How do you say shame in Arabic?
Shame in Arabic? Honestly, I don't know. I'm not Arabic. What is it?
There's so many words.
Yes?
You mentioned a very important point about the Israeli government not stepping up. When I was at the Shurat Adin conference a week, 2 weeks ago, they said the same thing. How do we, especially as Israelis, get the Israeli government off their backsides and step up to the plate, particularly when you've got such a Hasbaronic, I don't know how to say it, as Netanyahu, as Prime Minister. He was so eloquent at the UN, he is such a brilliant speaker when he chooses to speak.
Yes.
How can we motivate him? It's beyond me, I don't understand.
I don't have a great answer to that. I mean, I wish, we talk, obviously there, hopefully this week I'm going to be talking to somebody in the foreign ministry. We'll see. I mean, we just talk on different levels. We'll see what happens, and we try to bring. I know it seems very obvious, but you can understand from a political point of view. There's obviously going to be other factors. They don't want to overuse it. They want to because it might water down their things, real important things that are later. You can see that there might be things, but I'm not a politician, thank God. And some things where they have their own opinion, their own ways, but I can't.
Some things are better done by NGOs than by the government, such as the Shurat Adin. Shurat Adin does things the government can't do because it's too partisan.
Yes.
I want to thank you, first of all. Second of all, I want to say that Elder was given this time. Anyone who wants to give some money, would like 20 shekel donation, preferably, but more as well. It's going to build the site and the blog and fund more things, so please help pass this around. And now a question I have, which is that I read your blog and I get very depressed about the whole situation. And then I go and meet Arabs, and it's just not... The danger of the internet is that one person puts up one picture and it's everywhere and everyone's sharing it. How do you believe this is reflective of the man in the street? Or do you have any idea of how,
That's a very hard question. I don't know. I mean, there is, in any culture, the loud people are the ones that we know about. There's most Arabs, I'm still convinced, just want to live their lives in peace. They want to raise their families in dignity, because dignity is the flip side of shame. They just want to, they just want to live. They don't care. I mean, listen, the Arab world has gone through different rulers over the centuries. It goes from, okay, British, Ottoman, this is whatever it is. They're just like, it happens, and people just want to live their life. It's now, obviously there's politicization. Obviously we have a big problem with the schools. So the last generation, I would say relatively, I'd be fairly secure in the statement that Arabs just, most Arabs just want to live their lives and be, with dignity. It's harder to say that as time goes on because there's so much radicalization going on in the schools right now between the textbooks, and we see it in UNRWA, and UNRWA is the least problematic of the Arab schools because at least there's a little bit of oversight over that. So, I've looked at the Facebook pages of regular Arab schools. They are far worse than UNRWA. This is the problem because the rhetoric is so important to them because again, they want to be shown to be revolutionary leaders and that they're fighters and everything like that. That even though it's rhetoric in the first generation, it turns into action in the next generation. At least as we're seeing, at least right now, with this lone wolf, so to speak, intifada. To some extent, the kids are saying, "Hey, you're telling us to do it. It seems to make sense." I think that's part. It's a very, very difficult question, and we really do need to have a wholesale change in Arab thinking and in at least true freedom of speech, in which there could at least be debate. Because right now, all this anti-Semitic stuff that's up there, rarely, sometimes I see it. Sometimes I see an article saying, we can't say the Holocaust didn't happen because I went to Western University. Yeah, it really did happen. I believe, I trust you, I honor you, you're a great guy, but I think you're a little bit old. I've seen that. But you need to have the really rigorous debate that comes in. Because there are Arabs, Arabs are not shy about saying their stuff when they're, don't have to worry about any consequences. So with that, we have to somehow foster that environment. How to do that is way beyond my pay grade. Yes?
You mentioned schools. It's not just the Arab schools. I had a very old friend, a professor in Cambridge, and he and his wife came to Israel for a few days. Unfortunately, they got themselves staying with the wrong people, but they did have them for a day. And one of the places I took them to was Yom Hashem. And that obviously had a big effect on them. At the end, I took them to the Valley of the Destroyed Communities, and his wife, who worked for Amnesty, she suddenly looked at the name of these communities. She said, "Communities, that's my job." She was a community, whatever.
Yeah.
But by the time she got back to the car,
that's a whole other discussion. That's left-wing European and how they think. That's way outside the scope of what we're talking about over here. But that's an entirely big problem. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to add a couple of things. I live in Jordan, so I'm just visiting. I live in Amman since 5 years now, and before this I was living in Yemen. So I really wanted to thank you for this. It was like going through this checklist of basically my everyday experiences, and because what you ask, I think about, is it really Arabs or really like this? So I have to say, really, I see all of this, and especially the Holocaust denial, where people think that the Holocaust was like the Jews invented it, but I don't know. It's my experience is that I think like 90% of all people I've met believe that, and it's in school books and it's on the news. And like I said, you mentioned something about they don't get the newspapers don't get tired of reporting about this. It's and is there no other news? Like, of course there's other news, but of course no Jordanian newspaper can report about the corruption of the king, or can report about the issues that would be relevant for the people. So I think it's really also used to
scapegoat.
And also what I think you mentioned about the NGOs and so making this anti-Semitism an Islamic cause, it's I think mostly about money, because there's so much money being raised through zakat and the Islamic charities and what Muslims have to give. I mean, I will never forget this. I was living in Yemen in 2009, 2010, and beginning of 2011, and it was at this time approximately 50% of Yemenis were living under the poverty line, so they were living on less than $2 a day. And still, I mean, of course, every Friday the mosque is giving the speech about, you know, against Jews and against America and I don't know what, but and everybody is donating money for the Palestinian cause to fight against the Jews.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention that. I was going to mention the prayers that are in the mosque literally against Israel. But yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming.
No, but I mean, it's a question of money. This is why I think that shaming them is. I totally agree with your analysis of the shame, and this is probably the only way that works. But if it's like shame against money,
yeah, no,
I think.
But then you shame about the money. You say, hey, how come you have so many people below the poverty line? Is what you say. Listen, well, why are you talking about Palestine when your own people are starving? But that could be shame. I already asked you. Just maybe doesn't get to yes.
First, I would love to thank you for the lecture, and I have some questions. Is like the first fundamental question is like why we should use the shaming technique and not spreading awareness technique.
Not spreading the what? I'm sorry.
Why we should use the shaming technique, not the raising awareness technique? Because in human nature, if you tell someone that you're bad, you're like terrible, they will just like say, no, I'm not. They will have this defensive.
It's the same thing.
Mentality.
No, but raising awareness is shame.
But it's just like awareness about it, and they know it, and acknowledge it, and they know that you respect them as equal human beings, and they know that you honor them, and not label them as like a shame honor society or whatever labels. Then I think they were just work on it and like.
I actually agree with you. I mean, it's when I say shame, I'm talking in a very general point of view. I am talking about raising awareness, is what I mean. I don't want to shame just for the act of shaming. I'm not just trying to make them feel humiliated. That's not the point. The point is specifically saying, here's how you're acting. You say you're a moral person. You're not adding, you're not reaching the goals that you yourself say that you go to. Let's make awareness and let them put the two and two together. I'm not trying to, but certainly in any peace agreement or any large-scale implementation of this plan, there would have to be honoring at the same time, because it's a carrot and stick type thing. So I'm not sure how to do that, but I believe that Rabbi Jonathan Sachs has spoken about this specifically, about saying that how you have to use both sides in order to be able to get to a peace plan. I'm fairly sure it was him. But it's, I actually agree with you. I'm using this just to bring awareness to it, but I'm not trying to say, well, let's humiliate the Arabs. That's not really what my intent is. My point is that shame is a weapon, but it's not saying that shame is the only way of doing it, specifically. Yes?
Speaking of NGOs, here in Israel, we should maybe, beyond NGOs outside or against, we should address very much the Israeli NGOs who are so much spreading anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic.
That's almost a different topic.
I would say
you're right. No,
maybe it's the fundamental problem.
All funded by Europeans, funded by the same organizations that
funded by Christian organizations.
No.
The New Israel Fund,
yes.
You have to know, is funded by Christian American organizations.
Yes.
Most unbelievable.
The Israeli NGOs, as well as the Israeli media, meaning Haaretz.
The Israeli NGOs are almost all funded, almost 100%, like Breaking the Silence, by European NGOs. They use Christian fronts through the foreign ministries because that's how they distribute the money. If you read NGO Monitor, you can get, I'm Shmuel Sol.
Right. Okay.
And you're amazing, and thank you, and I bow before the elder. Tremendous for all of us, especially us bloggers. But you should go on NGO Monitor, and it will explain the difference. The New Israel Fund is basically the Jewish left. It's the Jewish left,
Yes, but
especially.
behind, not visible. And some, no, I'm saying the Jewish left, I agree with you.
Let's take that off,
Jewish
because it's
left
really
is
off
also
topic a little bit. That is entirely.
I just wanted to mention just one last thing, just connected. So the honor shade thing, amazing, and someone asked, this has been written extensively, read Howard Rhodes stuff, there's many people who've written this area, but the other piece that is critical to understanding this is the sheikh complex. So there's both the leadership, because how Arab society has been built through Hamulas is through always giving up all their authority to the leader, to the sheikh. So it's extremely important. I read this fascinating study done on Saudi Arabia, and until it opened up my eyes that without the two of them together, so there's both this issue about honor and shame, but also how do you reach their sheikh leaders, which, by the way, the Israelis in the 1950s and 60s did a lot of work in that area in the Israeli Arab community, and a lot of that got dropped by the wayside, which was a shame. There was a ton of dialogue going on all the time with the leaders, because the rank and file, they're worthless. They're falachin. They're
And that's a very good point. I'm not sure how unified it is. I think that it's a bit more fragmented than what you're saying, because everybody has their leader, but there are a lot of different leaders, so I'm not
It's
sure.
by Hamula. No, it's by relative. It's by your relationship. You are related to that.
Yeah, no, that's for sure true.
By a distant cousin once.
No, you're right. A positive engagement in that direction would be excellent. Yes?
I just wanted to thank you very much for everything, but in particular your apartheid question mark posters, several of which I have saved to my computer, and I just draw that, and also the concentration camp Gaza. You and